The Genius Workout, daily exercises to sharpen your mind and grow your IQ. A motivational audiobook by the Protocols of Astrian. Before we start, if you ever feel like you are walking through fog alone, hit subscribe and let these audiobooks be your quiet companion through every season. You are about to start the most exciting journey of your life, and it does not require a single piece of fancy equipment or an expensive degree. This book is built on a simple truth that the world has kept hidden from you for too long. Your brain is not a fixed computer, but a flexible muscle that grows stronger every time you challenge it. We have been taught to believe that smart people are just born that way, and the rest of us are stuck with the cards we were dealt. That idea is a complete lie, and we are going to prove it wrong together starting today. Think of this book as your personal gym membership, but instead of building bigger arms, we are building a sharper, faster, and more creative mind. You will not find boring lectures or complicated science here, only fun, daily workouts that feel like games but deliver real results. Every chapter is a new machine in this gym, designed to target a specific mental muscle you never knew you had. So take a deep breath, forget everything you think you know about your own limits, and get ready to meet the genius that has been waiting inside you. The workouts in this book are designed to fit into a normal, busy life because you do not need hours of free time to become a genius. You just need the right strategy. Some chapters will ask you to think deeply about your mistakes, while others will ask you to play silly word games or stare at the wall like you are daydreaming. It might feel strange at first, and that is exactly the point, because feeling strange means you are doing something your brain has never done before. We will move step by step, starting with simple warm-ups to clear the mental clutter, then moving into heavy lifting where we solve real problems and learn new things fast. By the time we reach the cool-down chapters, you will notice that conversations feel easier, problems look smaller, and your memory feels like it has been upgraded. You are not just reading a book here. You are entering a 15-week training camp that will change how you see yourself forever. The only requirement is that you show up, try the exercises, and trust the process even when it feels hard. Welcome to the gym. Your workout starts now. Chapter 1. The Monkey Mind Tamer. Have you ever tried to read a book while your brain is busy replaying an argument you had 5 years ago, and you end up reading the same page 10 times without remembering a single word? That noise in your head is what we call the monkey mind, and it is the single biggest thing stopping you from thinking like a genius, because it never shuts up and jumps from branch to branch constantly. You cannot build a strong mind if you cannot focus for more than 10 seconds, just like you cannot build strong arms if you keep dropping the weights every time you try to lift. The good news is that the monkey mind is not your master. It is just a bad habit, and habits can be broken with the right daily workout. Today, we are going to start a simple exercise that feels almost too easy, but it is the foundation that every genius in history has used to build their incredible focus. We are going to sit in a quiet place, set a timer for just 10 minutes and focus on one single thing, like our breath or a spot on the wall, without picking up our phone. Your mind will scream. It will beg you to check Instagram or think about what you are having for dinner, and your only job is to gently bring it back to the breath every single time it wanders. This is not about clearing your mind completely. That is impossible. It is about building the muscle that notices when you are distracted and pulls you back to center, and that muscle is the key to everything. The first time you try this workout, you might feel like you are failing because your brain is louder than a rock concert, but you must understand that noticing the noise is actually the victory, not the failure. Every time you realize your mind has wandered and you pull it back, you have just done one perfect rep for your focus muscle, and you need to celebrate that tiny win. Most people live their entire lives letting the monkey mind drag them around like a puppet, never even realizing they have the power to grab the strings back. By spending just 10 minutes a day on this workout, you are teaching your brain that you are the one in charge, not your random thoughts and not your notifications. You will start to notice that during conversations, You actually hear what people are saying instead of just waiting for your turn to talk, and your relationships will improve because of it. When you sit down to work, you will find that you can dive deep into a task for 30 minutes without looking up, and the quality of your work will skyrocket because you are actually present. This simple practice has been proven by science to physically change your brain structure, thickening the areas responsible for attention and thinning the areas that cause stress and anxiety. You are not just sitting still here. You are building the control room from which every other genius skill will be operated, and that is worth every second of boredom you feel. Let us talk about the enemy, because you need to know exactly what you are fighting against when you sit down to tame this monkey. Your phone is not just a device. It is a slot machine designed by the smartest people in the world to keep you pulling the lever for tiny hits of dopamine that destroy your focus forever. Every buzz and notification is a trained monkey throwing a banana at you, and your brain has been conditioned to drop everything and grab it immediately, no matter how important the thing you were doing was. This constant interruption keeps your brain in a state of shallow thinking, where you never go deep enough to have a truly original or genius idea because you are always skimming the surface. The workout in this chapter is like a vaccine against the addiction of distraction. It builds up your immunity so that when the phone buzzes, you can calmly choose to ignore it instead of jumping. You will find that after a week of this training, the buzzing starts to feel less urgent, and after a month, you might even forget where you left your phone for hours at a time. That freedom is the birthplace of genius, because deep thinking requires long, uninterrupted stretches of time where your mind can wander, connect, and create. You are not just taming a monkey here, you are reclaiming your life from the machines that want to eat your attention, and that makes you stronger than 99% of the population already. A common mistake people make when they start this workout is that they try too hard. They scrunch up their face and try to force their thoughts to stop, which only makes the monkey jump around even more. You have to approach this exercise with a sense of gentle curiosity, like you are watching clouds pass in the sky, noticing them but not trying to grab them or push them away. When a thought comes, you simply say "thinking" in your mind, and you let it float away while you return your attention to your breath or the wall. It is not a battle, it is a dance, and you are learning the steps one at a time without judging yourself for stepping on your own toes. Many people quit after a few days because they expect to become a Zen master immediately, and when they don't, they assume it is not working and give up entirely. Please do not be that person, because the people who stick with this workout, even when it feels pointless, are the ones who wake up one day and realize they have a superpower that everyone else lacks. That superpower is the ability to direct their attention exactly where they want it, for as long as they want it there. And in a world full of distractions, that focus is the ultimate competitive advantage. Keep going, keep sitting, and keep bringing that monkey back to its seat, because you are building the foundation of a genius mind right now. To make this workout stick, we need to build a trigger that reminds you to do it every single day. Because consistency is way more important than intensity when you are building mental muscle. Pick a time of day that already exists in your routine, like right after you brush your teeth in the morning or right before you drink your first cup of coffee, and attach your 10-minute sit to that habit. If you try to just fit it in, whenever you have time, you will never do it, because the monkey will always find an excuse to avoid being tamed and will convince you that you are too busy. You also need a dedicated spot, even if it is just a corner of your bedroom or a specific chair, where you do this practice every time so your brain starts to associate that spot with calm focus. When you sit down, set a timer on your phone and then turn it face down so you are not tempted to look at the screen and see how much time is left. If 10 minutes feels impossible right now, start with 5. But be honest with yourself and gradually increase the time as your muscle gets stronger. Remember that this is not a test that you can pass or fail. It is simply practice, and every time you sit, you are winning simply by showing up. The greatest minds in history, from Einstein to Steve Jobs, All had some version of this practice, not because they were mystical, but because they knew that a quiet mind is a genius mind. You might be wondering how sitting still and doing nothing is supposed to make you smarter, and that is a fair question because it does not look like work at all. The magic happens in the space between your thoughts, because that is where your brain gets a chance to rest, reset, and reorganize itself without you constantly feeding it new information. When you are constantly consuming content, your brain is like a kitchen where the sink is overflowing and the chef is yelling, and no good meal can come out of that chaos. The 10 minutes of stillness is you stopping the chaos, turning off the radio, and letting the chef breathe so he can actually start cooking something delicious. After your session, you will often find that the answer to a problem you were stuck on pops into your head out of nowhere, or you suddenly remember something you had forgotten. That is not magic. That is your brain finally having the space to process information and make connections that were hidden under all the noise. By taming the monkey, you are actually speeding up your brain's ability to solve problems, because you are no longer getting in its way with constant chatter. So sit down, be still, and let the genius in you start to whisper, because it has been trying to talk to you for years, but the monkey has been screaming too loud for you to hear. Chapter 2. Boredom is the new superpower. If you ask most people what they hate the most in the world, many of them will say boredom, and they will do literally anything to escape it by grabbing their phone the second they have to wait in line for 3 minutes. We have been trained to fear silence and empty time so much that we fill every single gap with scrolling, watching, and consuming, never realizing that we are throwing away the most creative moments of our day. The truth is that boredom is not a problem to be solved. It is actually a superpower that geniuses use to come up with their best ideas, because a bored mind is a mind that starts to wander and make strange connections. When your brain has nothing to do, it does not just shut off. It actually activates something called the default mode network, which is like a behind-the-scenes workshop where your brain solves problems and gets creative without you even trying. But if you never let your brain get bored, if you stuff every second with podcasts and TikTok videos, you never open that workshop, and all those great ideas stay locked inside. This chapter is going to give you a workout that feels like doing nothing, but it is actually one of the most productive things you can ever do for your intelligence. We are going to practice letting ourselves be bored on purpose, and we are going to watch the magic that happens when we stop running from the silence. Get ready to reclaim the lost art of daydreaming, because it might just be the secret weapon you have been missing your whole life. The workout for this chapter is beautifully simple, yet it will feel incredibly uncomfortable at first because your brain is addicted to stimulation and will throw a tantrum when you try to take it away. For this exercise, you need to find a situation where you would normally pull out your phone, like waiting for a bus, standing in a checkout line, or sitting alone with your morning coffee. Instead of reaching for your device, you are going to do absolutely nothing. You are just going to stand there or sit there and let your mind go blank or wander wherever it wants to go. You are not allowed to meditate or focus on your breath, and you are not allowed to plan your day or make a to-do list. You are just going to be present with the emptiness and see what happens. At first, you will feel an almost painful urge to check your phone, and you might even feel anxious or fidgety because your brain is screaming for its dopamine hit. But if you can sit with that discomfort for just a few minutes, something amazing starts to happen. Your brain gets bored of being bored and starts to entertain itself. You might start noticing things you never saw before, like the way the light hits a building or the expression on a stranger's face, and these observations can spark ideas. You might suddenly remember a dream you had last night, or a solution to a problem at work might pop into your head completely out of the blue, and that is your default mode network finally getting a chance to work its magic. Let us look at the science behind this for a moment, because understanding why boredom works will help you trust the process when it feels like you are wasting time. When you are focused on a task, your brain uses specific networks to get the job done. But when you are bored and letting your mind wander, a completely different set of regions lights up and starts talking to each other. This is the network that connects distant memories, links old ideas with new ones, and simulates future scenarios, which is exactly where creativity comes from in the first place. Some of the greatest discoveries in history happened when people were bored, like Isaac Newton sitting under a tree and watching an apple fall, or Archimedes taking a bath and suddenly understanding density. These people were not staring at screens or reading articles when they had their breakthroughs. They were just letting their minds drift in a state of relaxed boredom. When you constantly consume content, you are feeding your brain other people's ideas. But when you get bored, you are forcing your brain to generate its own ideas from scratch. That is the difference between being a consumer and being a creator, and creators are the ones we call geniuses. So the next time you are stuck in traffic or waiting for an appointment, fight the urge to grab your phone and instead just sit there and see what your brain comes up with. You might be shocked by how brilliant it actually is. Now let us talk about the enemy of boredom, which is the constant, relentless stream of entertainment that follows us everywhere we go and never gives our brain a moment of silence. Think about all the moments in your day that used to be boring but are now filled with noise, like walking to the mailbox, taking a shower, or even going to the bathroom, where many people now bring their phones for company. Every single one of these moments was a potential opportunity for your brain to rest, wander, and create, but we have stolen them all away in the name of entertainment and productivity. You might think that listening to a podcast while you walk is being productive because you are learning something, but you are actually robbing your brain of the chance to process what you already know and make something new out of it. There is a reason why so many people have their best ideas in the shower. It is one of the few places left where you cannot bring your phone, and your brain finally gets a few minutes of boredom to play. If you want to unlock the genius inside you, you have to start protecting these boredom pockets like they are precious gold, because they absolutely are. Put a basket by your front door where your phone lives when you get home, take walks without headphones, and sit on the couch without turning on the TV, just for a little while. The silence might feel scary at first, but I promise you, on the other side of that fear is a creativity and clarity that you cannot find anywhere else. A great way to practice this skill is to create a boredom jar, or a list of things you are curious about, so that when you do get bored, you have a gentle place to go without reaching for your phone. But wait, you might be thinking, is that not just replacing one distraction with another? And the answer is yes, if you use it to escape the boredom immediately. The trick is to sit in the boredom for at least 5 to 10 minutes first, letting your mind wander completely free, and only then, if you still feel like it, you can go to your list as a way to channel that wandering into something creative. On your list, you might have things like think about why the sky is blue, or imagine what animals would say if they could talk, or try to remember the name of your first-grade teacher. These are not tasks to complete. They are just gentle invitations for your brain to keep playing and exploring without the harsh light of a screen. You will find that once you give your brain permission to be bored, it becomes incredibly playful and starts asking questions you never thought to ask before. This playful curiosity is the engine of genius, because every great invention started with someone wondering, what if, or why not, during a moment of unstructured thought. So protect your boredom, cherish it, and watch as your mind transforms from a passive consumer into an active creator who sees the world in a whole new way. As we close this chapter, I want you to think about boredom as a muscle that you have to exercise, because right now, it is weak from lack of use and it will hurt when you first try to use it. The first few times you sit in silence without a screen, you will feel anxious, irritable, and desperate for stimulation, and you will be tempted to say that this genius stuff is not working. That discomfort is actually a great sign. It means your brain is detoxing from the constant dopamine hits and starting to rewire itself for deeper, more meaningful thought. Stick with it, and within a few weeks, You will start to notice that silence feels less scary and more like a friend you can rely on when you need to figure things out. You will find yourself actually looking forward to those boring moments, because you know they are when your best ideas show up to play. The people who change the world are not the ones who fill every second with noise. They are the ones who are comfortable enough with silence to hear their own voice above the crowd. Start small, maybe just 5 minutes of boredom today, and work your way up to longer stretches where you let your mind run free like a child on a playground. This is your superpower, and it has been waiting for you to claim it all along. Chapter 3: Eating the Frog First Thing. There is a famous saying that goes, if the first thing you do in the morning is eat a live frog, you can go through the rest of your day knowing that the worst is behind you. And in the world of genius training, that frog is the hardest mental task you have to do all day. Most people wake up and immediately reach for their phones to check emails and social media, which means they start their day by giving away their best energy to everyone else's problems before they have solved their own. By the time they get around to the hard stuff, like writing that report or studying for that test, their brain is already tired from making hundreds of small decisions and fighting off distractions. Geniuses do the opposite. They protect their morning like a dragon protects its gold, and they use that fresh mental energy to attack the biggest, scariest task first before the world wakes up and starts demanding things from them. This chapter is going to give you a workout that feels uncomfortable at first because it asks you to change your morning routine, but it will pay off more than almost anything else you do. We are going to identify your biggest frog, and we are going to build a habit of eating it first thing, before you even let yourself have a sip of coffee, if that is what it takes. This single shift in your day will double your productivity and make you feel like a genius by lunchtime, because you will have already won the day while everyone else is still figuring out where to start. Let us dive into the workout that separates the true thinkers from the people who just stay busy all day without getting anywhere important. The workout for this chapter is simple to explain but hard to execute, because it requires you to fight against every lazy instinct in your body when you are still half asleep and vulnerable. Tonight, before you go to bed, you are going to pick one single task that you have been avoiding, the one that makes your stomach clench a little when you think about it, and you are going to write it down on a sticky note. When you wake up tomorrow morning, you are not allowed to touch your phone, check your email, or even turn on the TV. You are going to sit up, look at that sticky note, and start working on that task immediately. You do not have to finish it in one sitting, but you have to spend at least 30 minutes making a dent in it before you do anything else, including breakfast if possible. This works because your willpower is like a battery that is fully charged when you wake up, and every decision you make throughout the day slowly drains it until it is empty by nighttime. If you use that battery to scroll through Instagram and read emails, you are wasting your most powerful resource on things that do not matter, leaving nothing for the tasks that actually move your life forward. By eating the frog first, you are using your full battery on the thing that matters most, and by the time you get to the small stuff, you do not need as much willpower to get them done. You will be amazed at how much easier the rest of your day feels when you know the worst part is already behind you, and that feeling of relief is worth more than an extra hour of sleep ever could be. Now, let us talk about why this is so hard for most people, and why doing it makes you a genius by default simply because so few people have the discipline to pull it off. The frog is scary because it represents uncertainty. It is the task where you might fail, or where you have to confront something you do not know how to do, and your brain is wired to avoid uncertainty at all costs because it feels like danger. Your brain will come up with a million excuses to delay the frog, telling you that you need to check your email first in case there is an emergency, or that you should do some smaller tasks to warm up before the big one. These are all lies that your brain tells you to protect you from the discomfort of facing something hard, but they are actually keeping you small and preventing you from growing. Every time you avoid the frog, you are training your brain to be a coward, and you are reinforcing the habit of procrastination that kills more dreams than failure ever could. But every time you eat the frog first, you are training your brain to be brave, and you are proving to yourself that you can handle hard things, which builds confidence that spills over into every area of your life. The genius is not the person who never feels scared. It is the person who feels the fear and does the hard thing anyway, first thing in the morning, before the fear has time to talk them out of it. That is who you are becoming starting tomorrow, and it is going to feel incredible. To make this workout stick, you have to prepare your environment the night before, because the sleepy version of you in the morning has no willpower and will sabotage you if given the slightest opportunity. Before you go to sleep, get everything you need to work on your frog ready and waiting for you, like your laptop open to the right document, your notebook on the table with a pen, or your gym clothes laid out right next to the bed. You also need to make your phone as inaccessible as possible, which might mean leaving it in another room, putting it in a locked box, or using an app that blocks everything until you complete a certain task. The goal is to make the path to eating the frog as smooth as possible, and the path to distraction as bumpy as possible, so that your sleepy brain naturally chooses the right thing without having to think about it. You should also have a very clear reason why you are doing this task, because when you wake up and your brain is whining about how tired you are, you need a powerful why to push you out of bed. Write that reason down on the sticky note next to your frog, something like, "Doing this report will get me closer to that promotion," or "Finishing this project will free up my weekend to spend with my kids." When you connect the frog to something you deeply want, it stops feeling like a chore and starts feeling like a step toward the life you dream about. Your environment and your reasons are the two most powerful tools you have, so use them wisely and watch your mornings transform. A common question people ask is what to do if the frog is too big to finish in one morning, or if it is a project that will take weeks or months to complete, and the answer is to break it down into smaller frogs. You cannot eat a whole cow in one sitting, but you can eat a cow if you cut it up into steaks and eat one steak every single day, and the same logic applies to your biggest goals. If your frog is write a book, that is way too big to attack in one morning, so your frog for today might be write the outline for chapter 1, or even just write 300 words without stopping. The key is that the frog has to be something you can make real progress on in 30 to 60 minutes, so that you get the win and the momentum without feeling overwhelmed and giving up. At the end of your session, before you move on with your day, take 2 minutes to identify your frog for tomorrow and set everything up again, so the cycle continues without any friction. This daily practice of eating a piece of the big goal will compound over time like interest in a bank account, and one day you will look up and realize you have built something amazing without even noticing how much work it took. The hardest part is always the first bite, but once you take it, the rest of the meal goes down much easier, and soon you will actually crave that feeling of accomplishment first thing in the morning. You are building an identity as someone who gets things done, and that identity is the foundation of a genius mind that turns ideas into reality. Let us talk about the rewards, because you need something to look forward to after you finish your frog, and that reward is what will keep you motivated on the days when you really do not want to do it. After you have spent your 30 to 60 minutes on the hard task, you are free to check your phone, drink your coffee slowly, or do whatever small, easy tasks you want without any guilt whatsoever. This creates a powerful psychological contrast where the easy stuff feels like a vacation, because you have already earned it by doing the hard stuff first. Most people do the easy stuff first and then feel guilty all day, because the frog is still sitting there waiting for them, casting a shadow over everything they do. But when you eat the frog first, you get to experience the rest of your day with a lightness and freedom that is hard to describe until you feel it for yourself. You will notice that you are more present with your family, more patient with difficult coworkers, and more creative in your work because your brain is not secretly stressed about the thing you are avoiding. This single habit has the power to transform your entire life, not just your productivity, but your happiness and peace of mind as well. So set your alarm a little earlier, prepare your space tonight, and get ready to become the kind of person who faces the hardest thing first and wins before the day has even really begun. Chapter 4. The Explain It to a Child Game. Have you ever thought you understood something perfectly, only to try and explain it to someone else, and realize that your knowledge was full of holes and fuzzy logic that you never noticed before? This happens because our brains are very good at fooling us into thinking we know things when we actually just recognize the words, and we mistake familiarity for true understanding. The difference between a person who just seems smart and a true genius is that the genius can take the most complicated idea in the world and break it down into simple pieces that a child could understand. If you cannot explain something simply, it means you do not really understand it yet. You just memorized some facts or repeated what someone else said without really owning the knowledge yourself. This chapter is going to give you a workout that is fun, a little bit silly, and absolutely devastating to the foggy thinking that keeps you from reaching your full intellectual potential. We are going to play the Explain It to a Child game, where you take a concept you think you know and try to teach it to an imaginary 8-year-old using only simple words and fun examples. This exercise will expose every weak spot in your understanding and force you to fill in the gaps until your knowledge is solid and real. Get ready to become a master of simplicity, because that is the secret language that all true geniuses speak fluently. The workout for this chapter is simple. Pick a topic that you use or think about often, something like, how does interest on a credit card work? Or why does the moon change shape? Or even something from your job like, what is our company's main product really doing for customers? Now, imagine you are sitting across from a curious 8-year-old named Max who asks a million questions, and your job is to explain this concept to him in a way that makes him go, "Oh, I get it now." You have to pretend that Max does not know any big words like amortization or photosynthesis. So you have to use plain language and creative comparisons, like comparing interest to paying rent on money you borrowed. You are not allowed to use jargon or technical terms unless you immediately explain them in the simplest way possible, because if you hide behind fancy words, you are cheating yourself out of real understanding. Once you have your explanation ready, you can say it out loud, write it down, or even better, record a voice memo on your phone and listen back to hear how clear it really sounds. The first time you do this, you will probably stumble and realize you have no idea how to explain things you thought you knew well, and that moment of confusion is actually the best part of the workout. That confusion is pointing directly at the gap in your knowledge, and now you know exactly what you need to go research and learn so you can fill that gap and make your understanding complete. This is how real learning happens, not by memorizing, but by wrestling with ideas until you can make them simple enough for a child to grasp. Let us explore why this exercise is so powerful and why it separates the true experts from the people who just sound good at parties. When you use big words and complex sentences, you create a wall between you and your listener that makes you feel smart, but actually prevents real connection and understanding. A genius is not impressed by fancy language. They are impressed by clarity, because they know that the universe runs on simple laws that can be expressed in beautiful, simple ways. Think about Einstein's famous equation E equals mc2. It is incredibly short and uses only a few characters, yet it explains one of the most profound truths about reality ever discovered. If Einstein had tried to explain relativity using complicated jargon, nobody would have understood it, and the theory would have died with him. But instead, he found ways to use simple examples like trains and clocks to help people see what he saw. When you force yourself to simplify, you are actually forcing your brain to find the core of the idea, the essential truth that everything else hangs on, and that core is usually quite simple once you strip away all the noise. This process of simplification strengthens your understanding like nothing else can, because it requires you to connect the idea to things you already know and build bridges in your brain that were not there before. You are not just learning here, you are truly understanding. And understanding is the only kind of knowledge that stays with you forever and helps you solve real problems in creative ways. A great way to take this workout to the next level is to actually find a real person to explain your idea to, because the imaginary child cannot ask you follow-up questions, but a real person definitely will. Find a friend, a partner, or even just a willing coworker and tell them you are practicing explaining things simply, and ask them to play along and ask you questions when something is not clear. You will quickly discover that the questions they ask are the ones you never thought of, and they will reveal even more holes in your understanding that you get to fill in real time. This can be a little embarrassing at first because it forces you to admit you do not know everything. But that embarrassment is actually a sign of growth and humility that every true genius possesses. The people who cannot admit they are wrong or that they do not know something are stuck forever in a prison of their own ego, never able to learn anything new because they cannot stand the feeling of not knowing. But you are different. You are learning to love the feeling of I don't know, because it means you are about to discover something new and get a little smarter than you were before. Every time you successfully explain something to someone and they truly get it, you have just strengthened your own understanding and built a bridge that will last forever. So find someone to talk to, be brave enough to sound silly, and watch how fast your mind grows when you stop trying to impress and start trying to connect. Another variation of this workout is to use it as a learning tool when you are trying to understand something new and difficult, like a concept from a book or a new skill at work. When you read something complicated, stop after each paragraph or section and try to explain it to yourself in simple words as if you were teaching it to a child. If you cannot do it, go back and read it again, because it means you skimmed over something important without really absorbing it, and your brain needs another pass to catch what it missed. This slows down your reading at first, but it actually makes you learn way faster in the long run, because you are not wasting time on things you will forget immediately anyway. You are building deep, sturdy knowledge instead of shallow, flimsy knowledge that blows away at the first sign of a challenge. This technique is used by some of the smartest people in the world, including the famous physicist Richard Feynman, who made it famous, and it is called the Feynman technique in his honor. He believed that if you cannot explain something to a freshman college student, you have not really understood it yourself, and he lived his whole life by that rule. You can live by that rule too, and you will be amazed at how much smarter you feel when you stop collecting information and start truly digesting it. As you practice this skill, you will notice a wonderful side effect. You become a much better communicator in every area of your life, from work presentations to arguments with your family. When you can explain your ideas simply, people actually listen to you because they do not have to work hard to understand what you are saying, and they feel smart for getting it. This makes them like you more and trust you more, because you are not talking down to them or trying to confuse them with fancy words to make yourself look better. You become the person who can cut through the noise and get to the point, and that person is invaluable in a world where everyone is trying to sound more complicated than they really are. Your confidence will soar because you will know that you actually understand what you are talking about, and that confidence will make you speak more clearly and persuasively without even trying. You are not just building a smarter brain here, you are building a more influential and respected voice that people will want to hear. So keep playing the game, keep explaining things to imaginary children, and watch as the world starts to see you as the genius you are becoming, one simple explanation at a time. Chapter 5. Playing Chess with the Past. If you are like most people, you probably spend a lot of energy trying to forget your mistakes, bury them deep down, and move on as fast as possible because looking at them feels bad and makes you uncomfortable. But here is the hard truth that separates the geniuses from the average. Your mistakes are not just embarrassing memories. They are the most valuable learning material you will ever own, if you have the courage to study them. Every time you fail at something, you have just been given a free lesson that cost you time and pain, and throwing that lesson away without learning from it is like burning money and calling it a win. Geniuses are not people who never fail, in fact. They usually fail more than anyone else because they try more things. But they are geniuses because they squeeze every drop of wisdom out of every failure before they let it go. This chapter is going to give you a workout that asks you to do something uncomfortable. Sit down with your past mistakes and have an honest conversation with them. We are going to play a game called Chess with the Past, where you treat your life like a chess game and look back at your lost moves to figure out how you could have played better. This is not about beating yourself up or feeling guilty. It is about turning your history into your greatest teacher so you never have to make the same mistake twice. Get ready to make friends with your failures, because they are about to become the secret weapon that propels you forward faster than you ever thought possible. The workout for this chapter is straightforward, but requires you to be brutally honest with yourself, which is harder than it sounds because our egos hate admitting we were wrong. Take out a notebook or open a document on your computer and think about a mistake you made recently. Maybe something small like snapping at a friend, or something bigger like a project at work that went completely wrong. Now, instead of just describing what happened, you are going to act like a detective investigating a crime scene, and you are going to ask yourself a series of tough questions. What was I thinking right before I made the mistake? And what assumptions was I making that turned out to be false? What could I have done differently in that moment that might have led to a better outcome? And why did I not do that instead? Were there warning signs that I ignored or missed? And if so, why did I ignore them, and what can I do to notice them better next time? You have to write down the answers to these questions, not just think about them in your head, because writing forces you to be clear and commits the lesson to your memory in a way that thinking does not. The goal is not to blame yourself, because blame is useless and keeps you stuck in the past, but to understand the pattern so you can change it in the future. When you finish, you should have at least 3 specific lessons that you will apply next time you are in a similar situation, and you should write those lessons down in a place where you can review them regularly. Let us talk about why this exercise is so powerful, and why most people refuse to do it even though it could change their lives. When you avoid looking at your mistakes, you are essentially letting your brain store them as vague, scary memories that haunt you without teaching you anything useful. These unprocessed mistakes hang around in the back of your mind, making you anxious and afraid to try new things because you are scared of failing again without really understanding why you failed in the first place. But when you sit down and analyze a mistake like a scientist analyzing an experiment, you take away its power to scare you because you break it down into pieces that you can understand and control. You realize that the mistake was not some mystical judgment on your worth as a person. It was just a series of choices that led to a bad outcome, and you can simply make different choices next time. This transforms you from a victim of your past into a student of your past, and students always get smarter while victims just get more bitter. The most successful people in the world have a ritual of reviewing their failures regularly, sometimes every week, because they know that wisdom comes from experience, but experience alone is not enough. You have to process the experience, reflect on it, and extract the lesson, or else you are just repeating the same mistakes over and over and expecting different results, which is the definition of insanity. Be the scientist, not the victim, and watch how fast you grow. To make this workout a consistent part of your life, you should schedule a Chess with the Past session every week, maybe on Sunday evening, where you look back at the last 7 days and identify 1 or 2 moments you could have handled better. This weekly practice keeps your mistakes fresh so you do not forget the details, and it prevents small errors from turning into big, painful patterns that run your life for years without you noticing. During this session, you should also look at your wins, because you can learn just as much from success as you can from failure if you analyze it the right way. Ask yourself why things went well, what choices led to the good outcome, and how you can replicate those choices more often in the future. This builds a library of winning moves that you can draw on when you face similar situations, and it trains your brain to look for what is working instead of only focusing on what is broken. Over time, you will develop an intuition for good decisions because you have studied your own history so carefully that you can recognize patterns before they even fully form. You are essentially building a custom playbook for your own life, written by you and for you, based on the most reliable data available, which is your actual experience. This playbook is worth more than any advice from any expert because it is perfectly tailored to your unique brain, your unique circumstances, and your unique goals. A common trap people fall into when doing this exercise is that they turn it into a session of self-criticism and shame, where they beat themselves up for being stupid or weak instead of calmly analyzing the situation. If you catch yourself doing this, you have to stop immediately and remind yourself that you are not your mistakes. You are just a human being who is learning and growing like everyone else. The goal of this workout is not to make you feel bad. It is to make you smarter, and shame is a terrible teacher that actually shuts down the learning centers in your brain. When you feel shame rising, take a deep breath and imagine you are analyzing the mistake of a friend who came to you for help, and treat yourself with the same kindness and compassion you would offer them. You would not call your friend an idiot for making a mistake. You would help them see what happened and figure out a better way forward, and you deserve that same treatment from yourself. This gentle, curious approach to your own failures is what allows you to learn from them without getting stuck in a spiral of negativity and self-doubt. The more you practice this, the easier it becomes to face your mistakes honestly, and the faster you will grow because you are no longer wasting energy hiding from the truth. So be kind to yourself, be curious about your past, and let every mistake become a stepping stone to a smarter, wiser version of you. As you get better at this workout, you will start to notice that you make fewer mistakes overall, not because you are trying harder, but because your brain has been trained to see the trap before you step in it. You will find yourself pausing in moments of stress and thinking, "Wait, I remember this pattern. Last time I did X and it went badly, so maybe I should try Y instead." This is your chess with the past muscle flexing in real time, saving you from pain before it even happens, and it feels like having a superpower that other people do not have. You will also find that you are less afraid of failure in general, because you know that even if things go wrong, you have a system for turning that wrong into wisdom and coming out ahead in the long run. This courage to try new things, to take risks, and to fail forward is the hallmark of every genius who ever changed the world, because they knew that the only real failure is the failure to learn. You are building that courage right now, one mistake analysis at a time, and it will serve you in every area of your life, from your career to your relationships to your personal growth. So embrace your past, play chess with it, and let every move, even the losing ones, teach you how to win the next game. Chapter 6: The What-If Machine. When you were a child, your brain was a non-stop what-if machine, wondering what if dogs could talk, what if clouds were made of cotton candy, and what if you could fly by flapping your arms really hard, and that playful curiosity was the engine of your fastest learning years. But somewhere along the way, probably around the time you started school or work, you were taught that asking, "What if?" is a waste of time because it does not produce practical results, and you slowly shut down that machine in favor of more serious thinking. This was a tragedy, because the what-if question is actually the single most powerful tool for creative problem-solving that exists, and every major invention in history started with someone daring to ask it. What if we could talk to people far away without wires? What if we could fly? What if we could fit 1,000 songs in a tiny box? These were silly questions once, and now they are the foundation of our modern world. This chapter is going to reboot your what-if machine and get it running at full power again, because you cannot be a genius if you cannot imagine things that do not yet exist. We are going to play a game where you force yourself to ask, "What if?" about everything you see, from the mundane to the absurd, and you are going to watch your brain light up with possibilities you never considered before. Get ready to be a child again, because that is where the real genius lives, and it is time to let it out to play. The workout for this chapter is deliciously simple and incredibly fun, and you can do it anywhere, anytime, with nothing but your own imagination. For the next few days, whenever you have a spare moment, like when you are walking somewhere or waiting in line, you are going to pick an object or a situation and ask yourself, what if, about it until you run out of answers. Start with something simple like a coffee cup, and ask what if it could keep coffee hot for 24 hours? What if it could talk and tell you your schedule for the day? What if it was made of chocolate and you could eat it after you finished your drink? Do not judge your ideas. Do not worry about whether they are practical or silly. Just let them flow freely and write them down if you can, because the goal here is quantity, not quality. After you have done this with a few random objects, level up to bigger questions like what if money did not exist and we all just shared things? Or what if we only needed 2 hours of sleep a night? Or what if you could learn any skill just by watching a video once? These questions force your brain to build new connections and imagine different realities, and that mental flexibility is the key to solving problems that seem impossible at first glance. You will be amazed at how quickly your brain gets warmed up and starts generating ideas that are actually clever and useful, even if they started as pure fantasy. The more you practice, the easier it becomes to see opportunities and solutions that other people miss entirely, because they never thought to ask the question in the first place. Now, let us talk about why this seemingly silly exercise is actually a serious tool for building intelligence, and why it belongs in a book about training your mind like a genius. When you ask, what if? You are temporarily breaking the rules of reality that your brain has accepted as fixed, and you are forcing your mind to explore territory it usually ignores because it seems impossible or irrelevant. This exploration builds new neural pathways and strengthens the connections between different parts of your brain that do not normally talk to each other, like the part that handles logic and the part that handles imagination. The result is that you become better at seeing patterns and making leaps of insight that seem to come out of nowhere, but are actually the result of all that what if practice you have been doing. You also become more resilient in the face of problems because you have trained your brain to believe that there is always another way, always another possibility, even when the obvious solutions have failed. This is the mindset of the inventor, the entrepreneur, and the artist, the people who look at the world and see not just what is, but what could be. They are not smarter than you in the traditional sense. They have just kept their what if machine running while everyone else let theirs rust from disuse. So get your machine oiled up and running, because the world needs people who can imagine better ways of doing things, and you are about to become one of them. A great way to deepen this practice is to apply what if to problems you are actually facing in your life, whether they are personal, professional, or creative. If you are stuck on a project at work, sit down and ask yourself, what if you had unlimited budget? What if you had to finish it in half the time? What if you had to explain it to someone who speaks a different language? What if you could only use materials you already have at home? Each of these questions forces your brain to look at the problem from a different angle and often reveals solutions that were hidden in plain sight because you were stuck in a certain way of thinking. You can also apply this to relationships, asking what if you really listen the next time this person talks, or what if you assume they had good intentions even when it seems like they do not. These questions can transform how you interact with the world and open up possibilities for connection and understanding that you never considered before. The key is to treat every what if as a serious question, even the ones that seem ridiculous, because sometimes the ridiculous ones lead to the most groundbreaking ideas. You never know which question will be the one that changes everything, so you have to ask them all and let your brain sort through the possibilities later. This is how geniuses think, not by following a straight line, but by exploring every path, even the ones that look like dead ends, because sometimes the dead end is actually a secret door. As you become more comfortable with this workout, you will notice that your brain starts asking, "What if?" automatically, without you even trying, and this is when the real magic begins. You will be reading the news and suddenly think, "What if that story is being told from the wrong perspective?" And you will start to see biases and angles that other readers miss completely. You will be in a meeting and someone will present a problem, and your brain will instantly generate three "what if?" scenarios that nobody else has considered, making you look like a creative genius to your coworkers. This automatic questioning becomes a habit that keeps your mind sharp and flexible, constantly scanning for new possibilities and better ways of doing things. You will find that you are less likely to get stuck in ruts or accept things as they are, because your brain has been trained to always look for the alternative, the exception, the hidden path. This is the hallmark of a truly intelligent mind, not one that knows all the answers, but one that never stops asking better questions. So keep feeding your "what if" machine, keep playing with possibilities, and watch as your mind transforms into a creative powerhouse that sees opportunities where others see only obstacles. The world is full of things waiting to be imagined, and you are just getting started. Chapter 7: Spot the Lie. Every single day, you are bombarded with information from news articles, social media posts, advertisements, and conversations with friends, and most of it is at least a little bit untrue or misleading, often on purpose. The people who create this information are experts at making lies look like truth, using emotional language, cherry-picked facts, and logical tricks that fool your brain if you are not paying close attention. If you believe everything you hear without questioning it, you are essentially letting other people control your reality, and you will make decisions based on false information that leads you down the wrong path every time. Geniuses are not fooled so easily because they have trained themselves to be lie detectors, constantly looking for the holes in arguments and the angles that are being hidden from view. This chapter is going to give you a workout that turns you into a human lie detector, able to see through the fog of manipulation and get to the truth that matters. We are going to play a game called Spot the Lie, where you take a piece of information and actively try to figure out what is missing, what is exaggerated, and what is just plain wrong. This is not about becoming cynical or distrusting everyone. It is about becoming smart enough to think for yourself and make up your own mind based on reality, not on what someone wants you to believe. Get ready to sharpen your critical thinking until it is razor sharp and nobody can pull the wool over your eyes ever again. The workout for this chapter is simple, but requires you to be an active reader and listener instead of a passive consumer who just accepts everything at face value. Pick one article, one video, or one advertisement today and read or watch it with a specific mission. You are trying to prove it wrong instead of just understanding what it says. Start by looking for the claims that seem too good to be true or that make you feel a strong emotion like fear or excitement, because these are often the places where truth gets stretched to get a reaction from you. Ask yourself who benefits from you believing this information and what they might be trying to sell you, whether it is a product, an idea, or just their own reputation. Look for statements that are not backed up by any evidence, or that use words like "experts say" without naming the experts, because that is a classic trick to make something sound true without actually proving it. Try to find the other side of the story, the information that is being left out, and ask yourself why it might have been omitted. You can even take it a step further by looking up the topic on a different website or from a different source and comparing what you find, because the truth usually lives in the space between different perspectives. After you have done this, write down at least one thing you discovered that the original source was hiding or distorting, and you have just completed your first rep of the Spot the Lie workout. Let us talk about why this is such an essential skill for anyone who wants to think like a genius, because the world is more complicated and more full of manipulation than ever before in human history. The algorithms that control what you see on social media are designed to show you content that makes you angry or scared, because those emotions keep you scrolling and watching, which makes the platforms more money. Politicians and advertisers use the same tricks, playing on your hopes and fears to get you to vote a certain way or buy a certain product without really thinking about whether it is good for you. If you do not learn to spot these tricks, you become a puppet whose strings are pulled by people who do not care about you at all, only about what they can get from you. But when you develop the habit of questioning everything, you take back control of your own mind and your own decisions, and that is the foundation of true freedom. You also become much harder to fool in arguments and debates, because you can instantly spot when someone is using a logical fallacy or making a claim they cannot back up. This makes you a more formidable thinker and a more trustworthy source for others, because people will learn that you do not just repeat what you hear, you actually think things through. In a world full of noise and lies, the ability to find the truth is the ultimate superpower, and you are building it right now. To make this workout a permanent part of your mental routine, you should practice it on everything you consume, not just news and ads, but even conversations with friends and family. When someone tells you a story about why something happened, ask yourself if there might be another explanation that they have not considered, because people often tell stories that make themselves look good or shift blame away from themselves. When you read a statistic, ask yourself where it came from and how it was measured, because statistics can be twisted to say almost anything depending on how you present them. You do not have to be rude or confrontational about it. You can just keep these questions in your own mind as you listen, building a habit of critical thinking that runs in the background all the time. Over time, you will develop an instinct for when something feels off, and you will find yourself digging deeper before you accept anything as true. This instinct will save you from making bad decisions based on bad information, and it will make you a much more interesting and thoughtful person to talk to. People will start coming to you for advice because they know you have a knack for cutting through the nonsense and getting to the heart of the matter. You are becoming a lighthouse of truth in a foggy world, and that is a beautiful thing to become. A common challenge people face when they start this workout is that they feel overwhelmed by how much information is misleading, and they start to feel like they cannot trust anything or anyone at all. This is a normal reaction, but it is important not to let it turn you into a cynical person who dismisses everything and trusts nothing, because that is just another form of being closed-minded. The goal here is not to reject everything. It is to test everything and then accept what passes the test, so that your beliefs are actually your own and based on solid ground. You have to be willing to change your mind when you find good evidence, even if it goes against what you wanted to believe, because truth is more important than being right. This intellectual honesty is rare and precious, and it is one of the clearest signs of a truly intelligent person. So as you practice spotting lies, also practice being open to the truth when you find it, and let your beliefs be shaped by reality rather than by your ego or your fears. This balance of skepticism and openness is the hallmark of a genius mind, and it will serve you well in every area of your life. Keep questioning, keep testing, and keep seeking the truth, because that is the path to real wisdom. As you get better at this, you will notice that you are much harder to manipulate in every area of your life, from the purchases you make to the opinions you hold. You will see through advertising tricks that used to fool you, and you will save money by not buying things you do not really need. You will be able to have more productive conversations with people who disagree with you, because you will be able to find the tiny bit of truth in their argument instead of just dismissing them entirely. You will become a better leader, a better friend, and a better citizen because you are basing your actions on reality instead of on someone else's carefully crafted illusion. This skill is not just about being smart. It is about being free, because the truth really does set you free from the control of those who would use lies to steer you. So keep practicing, keep spotting the lies, and keep building a mind that sees the world as it really is, clear and bright and full of truth waiting to be discovered. Chapter 8. Learning at Lightning Speed. Imagine being able to pick up a new skill in a matter of weeks instead of months, or understand a complicated topic in a few days instead of struggling with it for years, and you can probably imagine how much that would change your life. Most people believe that learning is slow and hard, and that you have to be born with a special talent to learn quickly, but that is just another lie that keeps people stuck where they are. The truth is that there are specific techniques and strategies that can speed up your learning dramatically, and they are available to anyone willing to practice them, regardless of their natural intelligence. Geniuses are not necessarily faster learners because their brains are wired differently. They are faster learners because they have figured out how to learn efficiently, and they use those methods every time they tackle something new. This chapter is going to give you a workout that teaches you one of the most powerful learning techniques in the world, called the Feynman technique, named after the famous physicist who was known for his ability to learn anything faster than anyone else. We are going to break this technique down into simple steps that you can apply to any subject, from playing the guitar to understanding quantum physics. Get ready to become a learning machine, because once you know how to learn, you can teach yourself anything and become an expert in whatever you choose. The workout for this chapter is a step-by-step process that you will practice on a topic you want to learn, and you will repeat it until the topic is firmly locked in your brain forever. Step 1 is to take out a blank piece of paper and write the name of the topic you want to learn at the top, like how a car engine works or the basics of digital marketing. Step 2 is to write down everything you already know about the topic, not in fancy language, but in simple terms as if you were explaining it to a child. And do not worry if you only know a little bit. Just write what you have. Step 3 is to go to your learning source, whether it is a book, a video, or a class, and start filling in the gaps in your knowledge, adding new information to your paper in your own simple words. Step 4 is the most important one. When you get to a part that you cannot explain simply, or that confuses you, stop right there and go back to the source until you can explain it, because that confusion is pointing to the exact place where your understanding is weak. Step 5 is to repeat this process until you have explained the entire topic on your paper in simple language, with no jargon and no fuzzy spots. Finally, step 6 is to take that paper and explain it out loud to someone, or even to an empty room, and notice where you still stumble, because those stumbles are the last bits you need to clean up before you truly own the knowledge. This whole process might take a few hours or a few days depending on the topic, but when you are done, you will understand that subject better than most people who studied it for months using normal methods. Let us break down why this technique works so well, and why it blows traditional learning methods like rereading and highlighting completely out of the water. When you reread a book or highlight passages, your brain is in passive mode, just letting the words wash over you without really engaging with them, which is why you forget most of it within hours. But when you force yourself to explain something in simple words on paper, your brain has to actively process the information, reorganize it, and connect it to things you already know, which builds strong neural pathways that last. The act of stopping when you get confused is also crucial, because most people just skip over the confusing parts and pretend they understand, which leaves gaps in their knowledge that cause problems later. By forcing yourself to clear up every confusion before moving on, you build a solid foundation that supports everything you learn on top of it, so you never have to go back and relearn the basics. This technique also reveals the connections between different ideas that you might have missed if you were just reading straight through, giving you a deeper understanding of how the whole topic fits together. You are not just memorizing facts here, you are building a map of the territory in your brain that you can navigate anytime you need to. This is how experts think, not by remembering isolated facts, but by understanding the landscape so well that they can find their way anywhere. A great way to supercharge this workout is to use it on topics that you encounter in your daily life and work, so that you are constantly building your expertise in areas that actually matter to you. If you hear a term at work that you do not fully understand, instead of nodding along and hoping nobody asks you about it, take 30 minutes that evening to run it through the Feynman technique and truly own it. This habit will quickly make you the smartest person in the room on a growing number of topics, because you are actually learning things deeply while everyone else is just pretending to know them. You will start to see connections between different areas of knowledge that others miss, and you will be able to solve problems by pulling ideas from one field and applying them to another. This cross-pollination of ideas is where real innovation comes from, and it is only possible when you understand things deeply enough to see how they relate to each other. You are not just learning faster here, you are building a web of knowledge that gets stronger and more useful every time you add a new thread to it. This web is your intellectual capital, and it will pay dividends for the rest of your life in the form of better decisions, better ideas, and better opportunities. So start weaving your web, one simple explanation at a time. Another powerful aspect of this technique is that it makes learning fun and satisfying, because you get to see your progress in real time as your paper fills up with clear, simple explanations. There is a deep satisfaction that comes from wrestling with a confusing idea and finally making it clear, a feeling of victory that makes you want to learn more and tackle even harder topics. This positive feedback loop is the opposite of how most people experience learning, which is often frustrating and boring because they are just passively consuming information without really engaging with it. When learning becomes a game where you are the detective solving the mystery of a confusing topic, it stops feeling like work and starts feeling like play. This playful engagement is exactly what keeps geniuses learning their whole lives, because they have found a way to make the process enjoyable instead of a chore. You are building that same love of learning right now, and it will carry you through decades of growth and discovery. Every new thing you learn will be another victory, another piece of the puzzle, another step toward becoming the person you want to be. So keep playing, keep explaining, and keep falling in love with the joy of understanding. As you practice this technique more and more, you will notice that you get faster at it, because your brain gets better at identifying the gaps and finding the simple core of complex ideas. What took you hours at first might take you minutes after you have done it 100 times, and you will be able to learn new things at a speed that seems almost magical to people who do not know your secret. You will become the person that others turn to when they need something explained clearly, because you have developed the gift of simplicity that makes you a natural teacher. This reputation will open doors for you in your career and your personal life, because people trust and respect those who can make hard things easy. You are not just learning faster, you are becoming a different kind of person, one who is confident in their ability to master anything they set their mind to. That confidence is priceless, and it will give you the courage to take on challenges that would scare most people away. So go ahead, pick something you have always wanted to learn, and run it through your new machine, because you are now a lightning-fast learner and nothing can stop you. Chapter 9. Random Word Tennis. Imagine your brain is a muscle, and right now it might be good at lifting heavy weights in a straight line, like focusing on one task, but it might not be so good at quick, agile movements that require you to think on your feet and connect totally different ideas in an instant. This kind of mental agility is what separates the people who can come up with brilliant ideas in meetings from the people who sit there silently, and it is a skill that can be trained just like any other. The workout for this chapter is called Random Word Tennis, and it is one of the most fun and creative exercises you will ever do, while also being incredibly powerful for building your brain's flexibility. We are going to take two random words that have nothing to do with each other, and we are going to force our brains to find a connection between them, like playing tennis but hitting ideas back and forth instead of a ball. This might sound silly at first, but it is actually training your brain to do exactly what it needs to do when you are faced with a creative problem. Find a bridge between two things that seem totally separate. Every great invention in history is essentially a connection between two things that nobody thought to connect before, like combining a phone with a computer to make a smartphone. Get ready to stretch your mental muscles in a whole new way, because we are about to play some word tennis and become more creatively agile than you ever thought possible. The workout for this chapter is simple to learn, and you can play it anywhere, by yourself or with a friend, and it only takes a few minutes to get a great mental workout. To start, you need two random words that have no obvious connection, and you can get these by looking around the room and picking two objects you see, like lamp and banana, or by opening a book to two random pages and pointing to a word. Now, your job is to find a creative, logical path that connects these two words, and you have to explain it out loud or write it down, so your brain really has to work to make it happen. You might say that a lamp and a banana are connected because both provide energy. The lamp gives light energy and the banana gives food energy, and there you have a connection that makes sense. The goal is not to find the one right answer, because there is no right answer. It is to force your brain to search through its vast library of information and find any bridge that it can build between these two islands. You can do this for as many word pairs as you want, and you can make it harder by picking words that are even more different, like astronaut and pencil, or ocean and bookshelf. The more you practice, the faster and more creative your connections will become, and you will start to see that your brain is capable of linking anything to anything if you just give it a chance to play. This is the essence of creative thinking, and you are building it one word pair at a time. Let us talk about why this silly game is actually a serious tool for building a genius brain, because the science behind it is fascinating and powerful. When you try to connect two random words, your brain is forced to activate many different regions at once, pulling up memories, facts, and ideas from all over the place and trying to find a path between them. This process strengthens the connections between those regions, building a richer network of associations that makes your thinking faster and more fluid in general. Over time, this practice makes you better at finding analogies and metaphors, which are the secret language of genius because they allow you to understand new things by comparing them to things you already know. You will also become better at solving problems because you will have trained your brain to look for connections that are not obvious, and often the solution to a problem is hidden in a connection you never thought to make before. This is how some of the greatest scientists made their discoveries, by seeing a connection between something in their field and something in a completely different area of life. The apple falling on Newton's head was just an apple, but his brain was trained to connect it to the moon and the planets, and that connection changed the world. You are building that same kind of brain right now, and it is going to start seeing connections everywhere you look. A great way to deepen this workout is to play it with a partner, because then you have to not only make your own connections but also react to theirs, which adds a whole new level of agility to the game. One person says a random word like cloud, and the other person has to respond with a word that is connected in some way like rain. And then the first person has to connect to rain with another word like umbrella, and so on. This becomes a rapid-fire game of association that forces your brain to think fast and stay flexible, because you cannot control what the other person throws at you, and you have to respond immediately. You will notice that some connections are easy and obvious, while others require you to stretch and think creatively, and both kinds are valuable for building your mental muscles. This game is also incredibly fun and can be played anywhere, while driving, while walking, or while waiting for food at a restaurant, turning boring moments into brain-building opportunities. You can even play it with kids, who are often amazing at this game because their brains are still flexible and not yet locked into rigid patterns of thinking. Playing with them can teach you a lot about how to let go and be more creative yourself, because they do not overthink it, they just play. So find a partner, start playing word tennis, and watch how fast your brain becomes quicker, more creative, and more ready for anything. As you practice this workout regularly, You will notice a shift in how your mind works during your normal daily life, not just during the game itself. You will be in a meeting at work, and someone will mention a problem, and your brain will immediately start connecting it to solutions from completely different fields that you never would have thought of before. You will be reading a book and see a concept that reminds you of something from a movie you watched years ago, and that connection will give you a deeper understanding of both. You will become the person who always has a creative idea, who always sees an angle that others miss, because your brain has been trained to look for connections everywhere. This reputation for creativity will open doors for you and make you invaluable in any team or organization, because creative problem solvers are rare and precious. You are not just getting smarter here, you are becoming a different kind of thinker, one who sees the world as a web of connections instead of a collection of separate things. This web is infinite and beautiful, and you are learning to navigate it with skill and grace. So keep playing word tennis, keep building connections, and keep surprising yourself with the creativity that has been inside you all along. Chapter 10: The Memory Palace Workout. Have you ever walked into a room and completely forgotten why you went in there, or met someone new and forgotten their name 2 seconds after they told you, and felt like your memory is just broken and there is nothing you can do about it? The truth is that your memory is not broken at all. It is just untrained, like a muscle that has never been taken to the gym, and it is capable of far more than you ever imagined. There are people who can memorize the order of a shuffled deck of cards in under a minute, or remember hundreds of names and faces at a party, and they are not born with special brains. They just use techniques that have been known for thousands of years. One of the most powerful of these techniques is called the memory palace, and it was invented by the ancient Greeks and Romans to memorize long speeches and complex information without writing anything down. This chapter is going to teach you how to build your own memory palace, an imaginary place in your mind where you can store information and find it again whenever you need it. This is not just a party trick. It is a powerful tool for learning, for remembering important things, and for expanding the capacity of your mind beyond what you thought possible. Get ready to build a palace in your brain, because your memory is about to become superhuman. The workout for this chapter is a step-by-step process to build your first memory palace and fill it with information, and once you learn it, you can use it for the rest of your life. Step 1 is to choose a place that you know very well, like your current home, your childhood home, or your daily route to work, because the more familiar the place, the easier it will be for your brain to navigate it in your imagination. Step 2 is to walk through that place in your mind and pick specific locations that you will use as storage spots, like your front door, the couch in the living room, the kitchen sink, and the bedroom closet, and you need to remember the order of these spots. Step 3 is to take the information you want to remember, like a shopping list or a list of historical dates, and turn each item into a wild, crazy, colorful image that your brain will not forget. For example, if you need to remember to buy milk, you might imagine a giant carton of milk doing a dance on your front doorstep, and if you need to remember bread, you might imagine a loaf of bread wearing a crown sitting on your couch. Step 4 is to place each of these crazy images in one of your storage spots, in order, so that when you mentally walk through your house, you see the milk at the front door, the bread on the couch, and so on. Finally, step 5 is to take that mental walk whenever you need to remember the list, and the images will be right there waiting for you, as clear as if you were really seeing them. This works because your brain is incredibly good at remembering images and locations, even though it is terrible at remembering abstract facts and lists, and you are just using its natural strengths to do the work for you. Let us explore why this technique is so effective, and why it has been used by memory champions and geniuses for thousands of years to accomplish seemingly impossible feats of recall. Your brain evolved over millions of years to remember where you hid food and which caves were safe, not to remember random names and numbers, so it is wired to remember places and visual images better than anything else. When you attach information to a place you know well and make it into a silly picture, You are essentially hacking your brain's operating system and using its oldest, strongest circuits to do a job they were not designed for. This is why the images have to be weird, colorful, and even ridiculous, because your brain ignores boring things but pays close attention to things that are strange, funny, or scary. The more ridiculous the image, the more likely your brain is to lock it into memory and keep it there until you need it again. This technique also takes advantage of the fact that memory is spatial, meaning we remember things better when we know where they are located, which is why you can still find your way around your childhood home even if you have not been there in years. By building a memory palace, you are giving yourself an infinite number of storage spaces that never run out and never get cluttered, as long as you keep practicing and adding to them. You are essentially building a second brain inside your first brain, and it is going to make you feel like a genius every time you use it. A great way to practice this workout is to start with small, simple lists and gradually work your way up to more complex information, so you can build your skill and confidence without getting overwhelmed. Try using your memory palace to remember your grocery list this week, and notice how much easier it is than writing it down on paper or trying to hold it in your head the old way. Once you have mastered lists, you can move on to remembering speeches or presentations by placing the key points in your palace in order, and then walking through it as you speak to remind yourself what comes next. You can even use it to remember names at a party by turning each person's name into an image and attaching it to something distinctive about their face or clothing, so that when you see them again, the image pops into your mind and gives you their name. This takes practice at first, but soon it becomes automatic, and you will be amazed at how many names and faces you can remember without even trying. You can also use it for studying, by placing key facts and formulas in different rooms of your palace, and reviewing them by taking mental walks whenever you have a spare moment. The possibilities are endless, and the only limit is your imagination and how many palaces you want to build. You can have a palace for work, a palace for your hobbies, and a palace for your personal goals, each one a beautiful mental space full of useful information waiting for you to visit. A common question people have when they first learn this technique is whether they will confuse the images or forget where they put them. And the answer is that with practice, it becomes incredibly reliable and clear. Your brain is naturally good at remembering the order of places you know well. So if you always put your first item at the front door and your second on the couch, that order will stay consistent every time you take your mental walk. If you need to remember multiple lists, you can use different palaces for different purposes, or you can reuse the same palace by imagining that you are wiping it clean and starting fresh with new images. The key is to make the images vivid and personal to you, because an image you create yourself is much stickier than one someone else gives you. You might also find that after you have used a palace a few times, the images fade and you can reuse the same spots for new information, because your brain knows that the old information is no longer needed and clears the space for you. This is not a perfect science, but with practice, you will develop a system that works for you, and your memory will become something you can rely on completely. You will never again feel that frustrating sensation of forgetting something important, because you will have a tool to capture it and keep it safe forever. As you become more advanced, you can build palaces that are huge and complex, with dozens or even hundreds of rooms, each one filled with images representing entire books or bodies of knowledge. There are memory champions who can memorize the order of 10 shuffled decks of cards using just one palace with multiple rooms, and they make it look easy because they have practiced so much. You do not need to become a champion to benefit from this technique. Even just using it for small things will change how you feel about your memory and your brain. You will walk into rooms and remember why you went there. You will meet people and remember their names. And you will study for tests and actually retain what you learned instead of forgetting it the next day. This confidence in your memory will spill over into every area of your life, because you will trust your brain more and stop worrying about forgetting important things. Your memory palace is a gift you give yourself, a tool that will serve you forever, and building it is one of the most rewarding workouts in this entire book. So start building today. Walk through your front door in your mind and fill it with the most ridiculous, wonderful images you can imagine, because your superhuman memory is waiting for you right there. Chapter 11. The 60-Minute Expert. Imagine being able to walk into a room and have an intelligent conversation about almost any topic, from climate change to ancient history to the latest technology. Because you have trained yourself to become a quick expert on anything that interests you. Most people believe that becoming knowledgeable about a subject takes years of study, and that is true if you want to be a world-class expert. But you do not need to be a world-class expert to be smart and interesting. You just need to know enough to understand the basics, ask good questions, and see how the topic connects to other things you already know. And you can get that in just 1 hour of focused learning. This chapter is going to give you a workout called the 60-Minute Expert, where you pick a topic you know nothing about and spend 1 hour becoming smarter about it than 99% of the population. This is not about becoming a master. It is about building a habit of curiosity and giving yourself the gift of a broad, flexible knowledge base that makes you a more interesting and capable person. Every hour you spend becoming a mini expert on something new is an investment in your brain that pays off in conversations, in problem solving, and in your ability to understand the world. Get ready to become a lifelong learner who is always curious and always growing, 1 hour at a time. The workout for this chapter is simple. Pick a topic that you know almost nothing about but have always been curious about, and set a timer for 1 hour to learn as much as you can about it. You can choose anything, like how bees make honey, the history of the Roman Empire, how a computer chip works, or the rules of a sport you do not understand, anything that sparks even a tiny bit of interest. During that hour, you are going to use the best resources you can find, like watching a documentary on YouTube, reading a long-form article from a reputable source, or skimming a book on the topic. But you have to stay focused and not get distracted by other things. As you learn, you are going to take notes in your own simple words, trying to explain the key concepts to yourself, just like we practiced in the Feynman technique chapter. At the end of the hour, you should be able to explain the basics of the topic to someone else, and you should have at least 3 interesting facts or insights that you did not know before. You will be amazed at how much you can learn in just 60 minutes when you are focused and curious, and you will realize that most people never spend even 1 hour learning anything new outside of their work or school requirements. This 1 hour makes you more knowledgeable than the average person on that topic, and if you do this once a week, you will become one of the most broadly educated people you know. Let us talk about why this practice is so powerful and how it transforms your brain over time, making you smarter and more interesting in ways that compound like interest in a bank account. Every time you learn something new, you are building new connections in your brain, and those connections make it easier to learn the next thing because you have more hooks to hang new information on. You also start to see patterns and connections between different fields that most people miss, because you have knowledge in many areas instead of just one. This cross-disciplinary thinking is where real innovation happens, because the best ideas often come from taking something that works in one field and applying it to another. You also become a much better conversationalist, because you can talk to almost anyone about their interests, asking intelligent questions and showing genuine curiosity instead of just nodding along. People love talking to people who are interested in what they have to say, and being a 60-minute expert on their field makes them feel seen and respected, which makes them like you more. This social benefit alone is worth the hour of effort, because relationships are built on connection and curiosity, and you are becoming a master of both. Your brain is becoming a garden where many different flowers grow, and that garden is beautiful and interesting to everyone who visits. A great way to make this workout a habit is to schedule 1 hour each week, maybe on a Sunday afternoon or a quiet evening, dedicated to becoming a 60-minute expert on something new. You can keep a list of topics you are curious about on your phone, so that when you sit down to learn, you do not waste time deciding what to study. You just pick one from the list and dive in. You can also involve your family or friends, taking turns teaching each other what you learned, which makes it more fun and helps you remember the information better because you have to explain it out loud. Over the course of a year, this one habit will make you an expert on 52 different topics, which is more than most people learn in a decade of casual reading and scrolling. You will start to see the world as a web of fascinating subjects all connected to each other, and you will never be bored again because there will always be something new to learn. This curiosity will become a defining part of your personality, and people will describe you as the smart one, the interesting one, the one who always knows something cool. You are not just learning facts here. You are building an identity as a curious, intelligent person who is always growing, and that identity will shape your entire life. Another benefit of this practice is that it helps you discover new passions and interests that you never knew you had, because you cannot know you love something until you try it. You might spend an hour learning about astronomy and realize that you are fascinated by the stars, leading you to buy a telescope and join a local astronomy club. You might learn about gardening and discover that you have a green thumb, and soon you are growing your own vegetables and feeling more connected to the earth. You might learn about a historical event and become so captivated that you read 10 more books on the subject and become a true expert over time. Every hour you spend is an opportunity to find a new passion that could enrich your life in ways you cannot yet imagine. The world is full of amazing things to learn and experience, and most people only ever scratch the surface of a tiny handful of them. You are choosing to be different, to be curious, to explore, and that choice will make your life richer and more exciting than you can possibly imagine right now. So start your list, pick your first topic, and dive in for 1 hour, because your next great passion might be just 60 minutes away. As you do this workout again and again, you will notice that you get faster at learning, because your brain gets better at identifying the key concepts and ignoring the noise. You will develop a kind of learning intuition that tells you what is important and what is just details, and you will be able to absorb the essence of a topic much faster than you could when you started. This skill is invaluable in the modern world, where information is everywhere but wisdom is rare, and the ability to quickly get up to speed on a new topic is one of the most valuable skills you can have. You will become the person that employers want to hire, because you can adapt to new roles and new industries without needing months of training. You will become the person that friends turn to for advice, because you have a broad base of knowledge to draw from. You will become the person who is never intimidated by a new challenge, because you know that you can learn anything you need to in just a few focused hours. This confidence is the ultimate gift of the 60-minute expert workout, and it will carry you through life with courage and curiosity. So keep learning, keep exploring, and keep becoming the most interesting and capable version of yourself, 1 hour at a time. Chapter 12. The Power of the Blank Stare. If you have been doing the workouts in this book, your brain has been working harder than ever before, learning new things, making new connections, and building new muscles that you never knew you had. But just like a muscle that is worked out too hard without rest, your brain can get tired, overwhelmed, and eventually stop growing if you do not give it time to recover and process everything you have been feeding it. Most people never give their brains this rest. They go from work to scrolling to TV to podcasts, filling every moment with input and never allowing a single second of true mental silence. This constant noise prevents your brain from doing one of its most important jobs, which is to consolidate what you have learned, file away memories, and make sense of your experiences. This chapter is going to give you a workout that feels like doing absolutely nothing, but it is actually one of the most productive things you can do for your intelligence. We are going to practice the power of the blank stare, where you sit and do nothing, letting your mind be completely empty or wander wherever it wants without any direction or purpose. This is not the same as boredom, which we practiced earlier. This is a deeper rest where you give your brain permission to stop working entirely and just be. Get ready to do nothing, because it might be the most important thing you do all day. The workout for this chapter is beautifully simple, and it might be the hardest one in this book for people who are addicted to constant stimulation and noise. Find a quiet place where you will not be disturbed. Set a timer for just 5 or 10 minutes to start, and then sit comfortably and do absolutely nothing. You are not allowed to meditate, because meditation is a kind of focus, and you are not allowed to daydream about specific things, because that is still thinking. You are just going to sit there, let your eyes go soft and unfocused, and let your brain be completely empty, like a blank screen waiting for a signal that never comes. Thoughts will pop up, of course they will, and when they do, you just gently let them float away like clouds and return to the blankness. The goal is not to fight thoughts or achieve some mystical state of emptiness. It is simply to give your brain a break from the constant demand to process, analyze, and create. After a few minutes of this, you will feel a sense of deep calm and refreshment, like you just took a nap even though you were wide awake. This blank stare is a reset button for your brain, clearing out the mental clutter and leaving you feeling sharper and more focused for whatever comes next. Let us talk about the science behind why doing nothing is so good for your brain, because understanding this will help you trust the process when it feels like you are wasting time. When you are constantly focused on tasks or consuming information, your brain is in what is called active mode, using lots of energy and building up stress chemicals that can actually damage brain cells over time if they do not get cleared out. When you sit and do nothing, your brain switches into a different mode, sometimes called the default mode network, which is like a cleaning crew that comes in and sweeps away the waste products that built up during active thinking. This is the same network that is active when you are daydreaming, but in pure blankness, it is even more restful because there is no mental activity at all. Studies have shown that regular periods of mental rest can improve memory, boost creativity, and even protect against cognitive decline as you age. This is not woo-woo spirituality. It is hard science, and it proves that rest is not the opposite of work. It is a necessary part of work if you want to do your best. By giving yourself permission to do nothing, you are actually investing in your brain's long-term health and performance. So do not feel guilty about the blank stare. Feel smart for knowing that rest is part of the workout. A great way to build this practice into your day is to schedule short blank stare breaks between periods of intense mental work, like after you finish a big project or before you start a new one. Even just 2 minutes of blankness can reset your brain and make you more productive for the next hour than if you had pushed through without a break. You can also use the blank stare when you feel overwhelmed or stuck on a problem, because sometimes the best way to find a solution is to stop looking for it and let your subconscious work on it in the background. Many great thinkers and artists have reported that their best ideas came to them when they were doing nothing, just staring out a window or lying on the couch, because their brains were finally quiet enough to hear the whispers of insight. You can also use the blank stare as a way to transition between different parts of your day, like after work before you engage with your family, giving yourself a few minutes to clear your mind and be fully present with the people you love. The possibilities are endless, and the only requirement is that you actually do it, that you give yourself permission to be unproductive for a few minutes and trust that it is making you smarter. This is a radical act in a world that worships busyness, and it will set you apart from the crowd in the best possible way. As you practice the blank stare, you might notice that your brain initially fights it, screaming for stimulation and trying to convince you to check your phone or get up and do something useful. This is just withdrawal from the addiction to constant input, and if you sit through it, the craving will pass and you will sink into a deep, peaceful rest that is incredibly healing. You might also notice that emotions or memories come up that you have been avoiding, because when you are still and quiet, your brain finally has a chance to process things you have been pushing down. This can be uncomfortable, but it is also healthy, because processing emotions is part of keeping your brain healthy and preventing stress from building up inside you. Let the feelings come, acknowledge them, and then let them go, returning to the blankness without judging yourself for having them. Over time, you will find that you are less reactive and more calm in your daily life, because you have given your brain regular opportunities to release the pressure that builds up from living in a busy world. The blank stare is not just for your brain, it is for your whole being, and it will make you feel more peaceful and centered in everything you do. So sit down, stare at nothing, and let the silence heal you from the inside out. Chapter 13, Sleep, the secret steroid for your brain. If there is one thing that most people get wrong about building a genius brain, it is that they think sleep is a waste of time, something to be minimized so they can be more productive, when the exact opposite is true. Sleep is not just rest. It is the most powerful performance-enhancing drug you will ever find, and it is completely free and available to everyone, yet most people treat it like an inconvenience. When you sleep, your brain is not shutting off. It is working harder than it does when you are awake, cleaning out toxins, consolidating memories, and making connections that lead to creative breakthroughs. Skimping on sleep is like going to the gym and then not letting your muscles recover. You are doing all the work but throwing away the results because you are not giving your body time to build. This chapter is going to give you a workout that happens while you are lying in bed with your eyes closed, and it might be the most important workout in this entire book. We are going to build a powerful nighttime routine that ensures you get the deep, restorative sleep that your brain needs to become a genius. Get ready to change how you think about sleep, because it is not the enemy of productivity. It is the secret weapon that makes everything else possible. The workout for this chapter is about building a routine that signals to your brain that it is time to shut down and go into recovery mode, so that you fall asleep faster and sleep more deeply. Start by picking a consistent bedtime and wake-up time, even on weekends, because your brain loves rhythm and will perform its sleep functions much better when it knows what to expect. About an hour before bed, you need to start winding down by putting away all screens, because the blue light from phones and computers tricks your brain into thinking it is still daytime and stops it from producing the sleep hormone melatonin. Instead of screens, you can read a physical book, take a warm bath, do some gentle stretching, or just sit and breathe quietly, letting your body know that the day is ending. You should also make your bedroom as dark and cool as possible, because darkness and cool temperatures are the two biggest signals your body needs to know it is time to sleep deeply. Avoid caffeine and heavy food in the hours before bed, because both can interfere with your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep through the night. Finally, if you have thoughts racing through your head, keep a notebook by your bed and write them down, telling your brain that you have captured them and they can wait until tomorrow, so you do not have to keep thinking about them all night. This routine might take some time to get used to, but once it becomes a habit, you will fall asleep faster and wake up feeling more rested than you have in years. Let us talk about what actually happens in your brain while you sleep, because understanding the magic will make you never want to skip sleep again. During deep sleep, your brain literally washes itself, with cerebrospinal fluid flowing through and clearing out toxic proteins that build up during the day, toxins that are linked to Alzheimer's and other brain diseases if they are not cleared regularly. During REM sleep, the stage where you dream, your brain is busy making connections between things you learned during the day and things you already know, which is why you sometimes wake up with a solution to a problem that was puzzling you. This is also when memories are consolidated, moved from short-term storage to long-term storage, so that you can actually remember what you learned instead of forgetting it by the next day. If you cut your sleep short, you are interrupting these processes, and you are literally throwing away some of the learning and growth that you earned during your waking hours. This is why pulling an all-nighter to study is actually one of the dumbest things you can do, because you are preventing your brain from saving what you just studied. Sleep is when the learning becomes permanent, when the workout becomes muscle, and without it, you are just spinning your wheels and getting nowhere. So treat sleep like the sacred, essential part of your genius training that it is, and protect it with everything you have. A great way to make sure you are getting enough quality sleep is to pay attention to your wake-up routine as much as your bedtime routine, because how you start your day affects how you will sleep that night. When you wake up, try to get bright light in your eyes as soon as possible, preferably sunlight, because this sets your internal clock and tells your brain when to start producing melatonin later in the evening. You should also avoid hitting the snooze button, because that fragmented sleep at the end is low quality and actually makes you more tired than just getting up when you first wake up. Moving your body early in the day, even just a short walk, also helps regulate your sleep-wake cycle and makes it easier to fall asleep at night. Throughout the day, try to get some physical activity, because exercise increases the amount of deep sleep you get and helps you fall asleep faster. Pay attention to how you feel when you wake up, and if you are consistently tired, experiment with going to bed 15 minutes earlier until you find the amount of sleep that leaves you feeling refreshed without an alarm. Your body knows how much sleep it needs, and if you listen to it and give it what it asks for, it will reward you with a brain that is sharper, faster, and more creative than you ever thought possible. Many people struggle with sleep because their minds are full of worries and to-do lists that keep them awake, spinning in circles and getting more anxious as the night goes on. If this is you, the notebook by the bed is your best friend, because writing everything down gets it out of your head and onto paper, where you can deal with it tomorrow. You can also practice a simple breathing exercise when you are lying in bed, like breathing in for 4 counts, holding for 4, and breathing out for 4, which calms your nervous system and tells your body it is safe to sleep. If you cannot fall asleep after 20 minutes, get out of bed and do something boring in low light until you feel sleepy, because lying there awake trains your brain to associate the bed with frustration instead of rest. The goal is to make your bed a place of peace and sleep, not a place of worry and tossing and turning. With time and practice, your brain will learn that when you get into bed, it is time to shut off, and you will fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer. This is one of the most valuable skills you can learn, because good sleep makes everything in your life better, from your mood to your memory to your ability to handle stress. So take sleep seriously, build your routine, and watch as your brain transforms into a rested, powerful machine that is ready for anything. Chapter 14. Your body is part of your brain. Throughout this book, we have talked a lot about training your mind, but we have not talked much about the container that your mind lives in, which is your body, and the truth is that you cannot have a genius brain inside a neglected body. The connection between your physical health and your mental performance is so strong that scientists call it the mind-body connection, and ignoring it is like buying the most expensive sports car in the world and then putting the cheapest, dirtiest fuel in the tank. When you move your body, you are actually feeding your brain, because exercise increases blood flow and delivers oxygen and nutrients that your brain needs to function at its best. When you eat junk food, you are poisoning your brain, because the same foods that clog your arteries also clog your thinking and make you foggy and slow. This chapter is going to give you a workout that involves your whole self, because to be a genius, you need to treat your body like the temple that houses your most precious possession, your mind. We are going to talk about simple, doable ways to move and fuel your body that will supercharge your brain and make all the other workouts in this book work better. Get ready to connect with your body in a whole new way, because it is not separate from your brain, it is part of your brain, and it is time to treat it that way. The workout for this chapter is not about running marathons or becoming a bodybuilder. It is about incorporating simple movement into your daily life to keep your brain supplied with the blood and oxygen it needs to thrive. The single best exercise for your brain is aerobic exercise. Anything that gets your heart pumping and makes you breathe a little harder, like brisk walking, jogging, swimming, or dancing. Just 20 to 30 minutes of this kind of movement a few times a week has been shown to boost memory, improve focus, and even grow new brain cells in the hippocampus, the area responsible for learning. You do not need a gym membership or fancy equipment. You just need to move your body in a way that feels good and gets your blood flowing. You can also incorporate movement into your day in small ways, like taking the stairs instead of the elevator, parking farther away from the store, or doing a few stretches during commercial breaks when you watch TV. The key is consistency, because the benefits of exercise on your brain compound over time, and even small amounts done regularly are better than huge amounts done once in a while. When you move your body, you are literally building a better brain, and that is a powerful motivator to get off the couch and get moving. Let us talk about food, because what you put in your mouth has a direct and immediate impact on how well your brain works, and most people are eating foods that actively make them dumber without even realizing it. Your brain is made mostly of fat, and it needs healthy fats to function, like the kind found in fish, nuts, avocados, and olive oil, while the fake fats in processed foods clog up your brain's communication systems. Your brain also runs on glucose, but it needs the slow, steady kind from complex carbohydrates like vegetables and whole grains, not the sugar spike and crash from candy and soda that leaves you feeling foggy and irritable. Water is also crucial, because even mild dehydration can shrink your brain temporarily and make it harder to focus and remember things. So drinking enough water throughout the day is one of the simplest ways to boost your mental performance. You do not have to be perfect, nobody is, but every time you choose a piece of fruit instead of a candy bar, you are giving your brain a gift that will pay off in clearer thinking and better memory. Think of food as fuel for your most important organ, and choose the highest quality fuel you can find, because your brain deserves the best. This is not about dieting or deprivation. It is about loving your brain enough to feed it what it needs to be a genius. Another powerful way to connect your body and brain is through breathing, because the way you breathe directly affects your nervous system and your ability to think clearly under pressure. When you are stressed, you breathe shallow and fast, which tells your brain that there is danger and shuts down the thinking parts in favor of the survival parts. But when you take slow, deep breaths from your belly, you send a signal to your brain that everything is okay, and you can think more clearly and make better decisions. You can use breathing as a tool anytime you feel overwhelmed, stuck, or anxious, taking just a few deep breaths to reset your nervous system and come back to calm. This is not just a relaxation technique. It is a performance technique used by top athletes, soldiers, and executives to stay sharp when the pressure is on. Practice deep breathing during your blank stare workouts or any time you have a spare moment, and soon it will become automatic when you need it most. Your breath is always with you, always available, and it is one of the most powerful tools you have for controlling your brain state and performing at your best. So breathe deeply, move your body, feed it well, and watch how your mind thanks you with clarity, focus, and creativity. As you start treating your body as part of your brain, you will notice changes that go far beyond just feeling healthier. You will think faster, remember more, and handle stress better than you ever have before. You will have more energy throughout the day, which means you can do more of the mental workouts in this book without feeling drained and giving up. You will sleep better, which we already know is crucial for memory and learning, creating a positive cycle where taking care of your body improves your sleep, which improves your brain, which makes you want to take care of your body even more. You will also feel more confident in yourself, because moving your body and feeding it well is a form of self-respect that radiates into every area of your life. People will notice that you seem sharper, more energetic, more alive, and they will be drawn to that energy without even knowing why. You are not just building a genius brain here, you are building a whole genius life, where your mind and body work together as one powerful unit. So take care of your body like the precious vessel it is, because it is carrying your genius through the world, and it deserves to be treated like royalty. Chapter 15. The Genius Day Blueprint. You have made it to the final chapter of the workouts, and by now you have learned so many powerful tools for training your mind that you might be wondering how to put them all together into a life that actually works. It is one thing to practice these exercises in isolation, but the real magic happens when they become part of your daily rhythm, woven into the fabric of your ordinary life, so that being a genius is just how you operate. This chapter is going to give you a blueprint for a perfect day, a template that you can adapt to your own life and schedule, that includes all the key workouts we have learned in a way that feels natural and sustainable. This is not a rigid schedule that you have to follow perfectly. It is a menu of options that you can pick from to design a day that feeds your brain and makes you feel alive and smart. We are going to walk through a day from morning to night, and I will show you where each workout fits and how to make it all flow together without feeling overwhelmed. Get ready to build your own genius day, because this is where everything comes together and you start living like the genius you have been training to become. The genius day starts the night before, because as we learned in the Eating the Frog chapter, preparation is the key to strong morning. Before you go to sleep, you will have already picked your frog for tomorrow, the one hard task that you will tackle first thing, and you will have everything you need ready and waiting for you. You will also have done your wind-down routine, putting away screens, maybe reading a book, and writing down any worries in your notebook so your mind is clear and ready for deep sleep. When you wake up, the first thing you will do is resist the urge to check your phone, because that is the monkey mind's favorite trap, and instead you will get up, get some bright light in your eyes, and move your body a little to wake up your brain. Then, before you do anything else, you will sit down and eat your frog for 30 to 60 minutes, getting the hardest thing done while your willpower battery is still full. After that, you are free to have breakfast, check your messages, and ease into the rest of your day with the satisfaction of knowing you have already won. This morning routine alone, if you do it consistently, will put you ahead of 99% of people and set the tone for a day of genius-level thinking. As you move through the middle of your day, you have opportunities to sprinkle in the other workouts we have learned, keeping your brain sharp and flexible without taking too much time away from your regular responsibilities. During a lunch break or a quiet moment, you might do a 5-minute blank stare to reset your brain and clear out the mental clutter that has built up from the morning's work. While you are waiting in line or walking somewhere, you can play a quick game of random word tennis, picking two things you see and connecting them in your mind to keep your creativity firing. When you learn something new at work or read an interesting article, you can practice the Feynman technique by explaining it to yourself in simple words or telling a coworker about it, locking the knowledge into your memory. If you have a meeting or a conversation, you can use your spot-the-lie skills to listen critically and understand what is really being said beneath the surface. These small practices take almost no extra time because you are just layering them on top of things you are already doing, but they keep your brain in training mode all day long. By the time afternoon rolls around, you will have done more mental exercise than most people do in a week, and you will feel sharp and engaged instead of tired and foggy. In the evening, your focus shifts to recovery and consolidation, giving your brain the rest it needs to lock in everything you learned and grew during the day. You might take a walk after dinner, getting some gentle movement and maybe practicing your boredom by leaving your phone at home and just letting your mind wander. You could spend an hour becoming a 60-minute expert on a topic that interests you, feeding your curiosity and expanding your knowledge in a fun, low-pressure way. You might play a game of Memory Palace with your partner or kids, turning learning into a family activity that is both fun and brain-building. As bedtime approaches, you will start your wind-down routine, putting away screens, maybe reading a book, and doing a few minutes of deep breathing to calm your nervous system. Before you close your eyes, you will take a moment to play chess with your past, reviewing the day and noting one thing you could have done better and one thing you are proud of, so that every day becomes a lesson that makes tomorrow better. Then you will drift off to sleep, knowing that your brain is about to do its most important work, cleaning, consolidating, and getting ready to do it all again tomorrow. This is the genius day, a rhythm of effort and rest, learning and recovery that builds a brilliant mind over time. Of course, your life is unique, and you will need to adapt this blueprint to fit your own schedule, your own responsibilities, and your own preferences. Maybe you are a night owl and your genius hours are in the evening instead of the morning, so you eat your frog after dinner instead of before breakfast. Maybe you have young children and your schedule is chaotic, so you have to grab your workouts in 5-minute pockets throughout the day instead of in long, uninterrupted blocks. That is perfectly fine, because the goal is not to follow a perfect schedule. It is to build the habits into your life in a way that works for you and that you can sustain forever. The most important thing is that you keep showing up, keep practicing, keep growing, because genius is not a destination you arrive at, it is a path you walk every day. Some days you will do all the workouts and feel like a superhero, and other days you will barely manage to do one, and both are okay as long as you do not quit. The person who keeps walking, even when it is hard, even when they stumble, is the one who eventually looks back and realizes how far they have come. So take this blueprint, make it your own, and start living every day like the genius you are becoming. Conclusion: you are now a different person. You have reached the end of this book, but you are really at the beginning of a whole new life, because the person who started reading the first chapter is not the same person who is reading these words right now. You have learned that IQ is not a fixed number you are stuck with, but a muscle that grows stronger with every challenge you face and every workout you complete. You have trained your focus, your creativity, your memory, your critical thinking, and your ability to learn, and you have built habits that will continue to serve you for the rest of your life. You have proven to yourself that you are capable of more than you ever imagined, and that the limits you thought were real were just illusions that dissolved when you challenged them. The world looks different now because you see it through the eyes of someone who knows they can grow, who knows they can learn, who knows they can become whatever they decide to become. You are not finished. You will never be finished, because growth is a lifelong journey and every day brings new opportunities to get a little smarter, a little wiser, a little more like the genius you are becoming. Celebrate how far you have come and get ready for how far you are about to go. The workouts in this book are not things you do once and forget. They are tools you will use for the rest of your life, whenever you need to sharpen your mind or solve a tough problem or learn something new. Keep practicing them, keep playing with them, keep finding new ways to weave them into your days, because the more you use them, the stronger they become and the easier they get. You now have a gym in your mind that you can visit anytime, anywhere, with no membership fees and no equipment required. Just your own beautiful, growing brain. The world needs people who can think clearly, create boldly, and solve problems creatively, and you are becoming exactly that kind of person. Go out there and build something amazing, love someone deeply, and live a life that would make the genius inside you proud. You have everything you need, you always did, and now you know how to use it. Thank you for trusting me to be your trainer on this journey, and remember, the real workout starts now. Go be a genius.